are two gardens. This is an example of that. To fear Allah's punishment. This kind of fear is praiseworthy. This is the kind of fear that we should have. That is fear of Allah and Allah alone. Okay? As long as you don't overstep the boundaries and fear Allah to the point that you lose mercy, that you don't have hope. We're supposed to fear Allah. We're supposed to fear that maybe Allah won't accept our good deeds. We're supposed to fear that maybe our salats are not good enough. But again, that must be within its boundary too, where you don't end up losing hope. And then there's a fourth kind of fear, and this is the natural fear. For example, you fear a lion or you fear a bear. Nothing's wrong with this. This is natural fear that Allah put in our hearts because we're humans. You fear a spider biting you or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? So those are the four different types of fear. The two types that are shirk, again, is to fear something or someone more than Allah, to the point that you don't obey Allah. Okay? And the other kind is to fear harm or benefit from someone or something other than Allah. Does everybody understand that? Those are the two types of shirk and fear. To fear someone harming you or benefiting you, or to fear performing your obligations to Allah. So now, what I would like to speak about too is the right of legislation. Claiming the right of legislation. This is another form of major shirk. And I always talk about this because so many Muslims today fall into this category of shirk. We need to understand that only Allah has the right to make things lawful and unlawful. The scholars do not have this authority. No human being has the authority to make anything lawful or unlawful. This authority is for Allah alone. Allah speaks about this in the Quran. And here's the dalil. Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, Allah, glory be to Him. Allah denies that His slaves should accept a lawmaker other than Himself. Allah says, do they have partners to Allah to legislate for them in the religion, that which Allah does not allow? We have Muslims running around today looking for fatwas for everything because we're living in the last days. They want a fatwa to justify their desires. They want a fatwa to justify their sins. And there are a lot of so-called people out there who call themselves scholars when they're really not scholars, but they use the title of sheikh and they'll give them a fatwa legalizing things. For example, you got some so-called scholars out there who have made homosexuality lawful. You have some so-called scholars out there who have made pork lawful. You have some so-called scholars out there who have made taking off the hijab lawful. So we have to be careful of this, okay? Careful of this. Remember, no one can make what Allah made haram lawful, and no one can make haram what Allah made lawful. Anyone who does that is guilty of shirk el-akbar. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever introduces in our religion anything which does not belong to it, it shall be rejected. He who practices an act of worship that is not endorsed by our religion, is to be rejected. They have taken their scholars and their monks for lords besides Allah, and they are commanded to worship the one God. There is no God but He. This is what the Jews did, guys, and the Christians. They allowed their scholars and their priests to make things lawful that Allah didn't sanction, and to make things haram. For example, polygamy. Polygamy was part of every way of life. Every prophet had more than one wife, most of them. All prophets who were married had more than one wife. But the Jews and Christians changed that. They allowed their scholars to make it haram to have more than one wife. And modesty. Modesty was part of every way of life. Allah encouraged all Muslim women, all men and women, to be modest in their dress. But they've allowed their scholars to make it lawful for the women, the Christian women and Jews, to dress immodestly. So these are the things that they've done. And unfortunately, the Muslims are doing the same thing. We got Muslims running around taking fatwas from their so-called scholars who are making things lawful that they have no authority to make lawful. And we have to be careful of this. And finally, for today, before we end, I want to speak about another issue too. The issue of imitating the disbelievers. Imitating the non-believers. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever imitates a people is one of them. We got so many Muslims who innovate with all these birthdays and holidays that they're introducing into Islam. Why are they doing this? Because they want to be like the Christians. They want to have a Christmas. They want to have an Easter. They want to have a Thanksgiving. They want to have a Mother's Day. They want to be like the disbelievers. And again, the Prophet said that one of the signs of the last hour is that we will imitate the Christians and Jews in everything that they do. Well, to go around imitating the disbelievers, this too can end up causing you to fall under the guidelines of shirk. Because there are some types of imitation of them which will constitute shirk and disbelief. So we have to be careful of this, guys. We have to make sure that what we do, we're not doing it because we want to be like them. So on that note, I'm going to stop right here for today.
لله الحمد والمنة أرشدنا لهذه الجنة أوصلنا دوما للقمة في ميادين الخير الماء لله الحمد والمنة أرشدنا لهذه الجنة أوصلنا دوما للقمة في ميادين الخير الماء النور تلألأ في المسجد ما أحلى المسجد معمورة طوبى للمسلم إذ يعبد في المسجد كي يحظى النور لله الحمد والمنة أرشدنا لهذه الجنة أوصلنا دوما للقمة في ميادين الخير الماء صلوات للعبد فرضت 5 أوقات قد كتبت من دام عليها قد حظي في الجنة نورا وحظا